This is the news on this early Friday night from CBC Radio 2 News right now.
Some 20 countries around the world have legalized same-sex marriage. Canada, of course, included on that list. But Ireland is to become the first to legalize it by popular vote. More than 3 million voters have been invited to cast their ballots today in a country where homosexual acts were illegal as recently as 1993. The traditional family is still protected by Irish law as a moral institution, so a referendum is needed to change that definition to include same-sex marriage. The Yes side believes they have the momentum framing this debate around love and equality. The Yes campaign includes celebrities, sports stars, all of Ireland's main political parties, and the government says an extra 68,000 new voters have registered in just the past couple of weeks, which they believe represents a surge of young people who are planning to show up today to vote yes.
Now for CBC's Jeff Semple in London. The Supreme Court of Canada issued a ruling today on a case involving 2 Edmonton men acquitted of making child pornography. CBC's Louise Elliott has the details.
This case dates back to 2008 when the age of consent was still 14. At that time, the 2 older men, Donnie Barabash and Shane Rawlinson, took in 2 14-year-old runaways from a drug treatment center. They then created 10 hours of sex videos with them. The girls performed the sex acts in exchange for food, drugs, and shelter. The men initially won their case in Alberta court by arguing that these girls were willing participants and they were at the age of consent. They also argued what's called the private use exception. That's a constitutional protection that says recordings of lawful sexual activity for private use are legal. So today we will find out how far the Supreme Court is willing to go in its interpretation of the age of consent and the question of civil liberties around this exception.
Everybody probably gets that feeling when you sleep funny. This has happened to me. Numerous times when you wake up and it's just like your hands just like numbing, your fingers are like can't bend.
Last year. That led to a record $45 billion jump in assets. Here's the CBC's Peter Armstrong.
Try to imagine the last time you had an 18% return on your investment. But that's the power of something as large as the Canada Pension Fund.
What works for pension funds like the CPP is the skill. They can actually invest in infrastructure, they can invest in real estate, and they are non-name, and therefore they can actually get the nice return.
Benjamin Powell, Deputy Chief Economist at CIBC. The CPP's investment board released its annual report to Canadians, showing growth in just about all of its holdings. The fund's main job, of course, is making sure there's enough money to pay a pension to retired Canadians. But right now, there are more Canadians paying into the system than there are people drawing money out of it, to the tune of about $5 billion. But as the baby boomer generation leaves the workforce, that changes. The investment board says within 7 years, the fund will be paying out more than it's bringing in contributions, making that return on investment all the more important. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
The Conservative Party says Prime Minister Harper won't take part in the English or French language election debates being planned this fall by the major networks. This despite the fact that the Democrats, the Liberals, and the Green Party have agreed in principle to work with the consortium made up by CBC, CTV, and Global. The Conservatives are saying they'll be focusing instead on a series of debates being organized by the Globe and Mail and Maclean's Magazine. And that is CBC News. We broadcast live and podcast at our website at cbcnews.ca. I'm Joe Cummings.